Gale, this is Terry Carter calling. How you doing?
Hi, Terry.
Hey, I got a couple more questions I want to ask you about John Brewer,
Okay.
if you got a minute.
Sure.
I was wondering if he ever told you about the inside of his cave, the East Cave, the one with the mummies in it.
Yeah.
And just what he described to you and what he told you about it and how he found it and just the whole story of what it looked like and how he hit it up.
And story. You got time?
Sure.
Well, there was a woman, or a girl from Manti that graduated from high school, and she didn't want to stick around Manti anymore, so she took a job in San Francisco. And she was raped, and she got pregnant, and she came back to Manti, and she had the baby. She didn't want to keep the baby, so she gave it to a family at a ranch outside of Manti somewhere, and they raised the kid. He was half white, half black, and the people didn't accept him very well. The kids kind of picked on him, so he ran around with the Indians.
Okay.
And
that was George Keller.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was the George Keller Ranch that he was at.
Okay.
And anyway, Johnny was making pictures out of arrowheads, you know, Indian chiefs and stuff like that.
Oh,
He was going to display them at the fair, and the fair was coming up, and he needed more arrowheads, so he started asking around if anybody knew where there were arrowheads, and somebody said, well, George Keller knows where there's a lot of arrowheads. They said, where can I find him? And they said he usually hangs out at the bar down here. So he went down there and he found him and asked if he could show him where there's arrowheads. And he says, I will for a jug of wine. So he gave him a jug of wine. He told him where to go, and he went up there and couldn't find any. So he came back down and he said, will you take me there and show me where these are? And he says, I will for another jug of wine. So I bought it to him and took him up there, and was under an overhang of rocks, and he says, now don't just pick up the ones on the surface, dig down, because this area for making arrowheads for many, many years. And he dug down a couple of feet in there, and he broke into a chamber. And the story that he told me is that there were steps going down, and at the bottom of the steps was a hole, a deep hole, big enough for a guy to fall into. He says he tossed a rock down in there, and it went down a long ways before it hit. Anyway, he says that I asked him if the hole was man-made or if it was natural. He says, oh, he didn't know. But he said on the left, the bottom of the stairs, was a kind of a desk or a table, and he thought that was used for inscribing record plates on. On the other side of that...
Was it made out of stone, or the table, or...?
I don't know. He didn't say.
Okay.
But he said on the other side of the table was a very large stone crypt. And he says that it was huge. And he says that against the far wall, going the other direction, was another large stone crypt. He says on the right-hand side, there was a bunch of shelves cut into the side of the hill, and there was a bunch of bundles on them. And he said that he came back with pry bars and wedges and stuff, and was able to raise one of those lids up far enough that he could shine a light in there. And there was a mummy, a well-preserved mummy in there, a giant guy with red hair, in full armor, a big sword in there. And the other one, he said, had a blonde-haired woman in it. She was also large, but not as big as him. She was also in armor. And on the other side, he said he didn't know what was in those bundles until he opened one up. He says there were cement box that was wrapped in juniper bark and covered with pitch, and those were the ones that had the records in.
Okay.
And I asked him, I said, well, what was straight back? You've told me what was on the left and what was on the right, but what was straight back? And he said, well, he says, I don't know. It was just a lot of dirt back there, but he says he did kick he stumbled on something, and it was some tablets there that was underneath all the dust, and he says he put them together and they formed a map of the area and showed where 7 other locations were, where he said that they said there were records. But he says he found a little, what looked like a melting pot where they probably melted metals down in with it.
Huh.
And he says that he doesn't know what was in the back of the...
Could he see the back, or it was all covered up with dirt?
He couldn't see anything in the back, but he says he doesn't know what was back there. He didn't excavate anything back
He couldn't tell how far it went back, or it was just covered up? Okay.
But anyway, he says he took some of the records out, and then he closed off the entrance, and he says that you can get within 3 feet of it and not tell it's there, because he says he closed it off and covered it over. But he says he has taken a video, made a videotape of how to get to it and a map, and he's put those in escrow in a bank in Provo, and they were in Paul's name. So if anything happened to him, they would go to Paul. And when Paul died, I went and told him that Paul had died, and he was quite upset about that. I told him, well, look, you've got to choose somebody else to change the name on there, so if anything happens to you, it doesn't just sit there.
Yeah.
The wrong people. And he says he would do that. And I assume that he did, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, you don't know who or if he did or what, huh?
Yeah. But he pointed up, he took me up behind the temple at Manti there, and he pointed up to where his cave was, and he says that from the entrance you can see the temple.
Which direction did he point?
He pointed kind of south. He didn't really, he just kind of waved when he pointed, so I couldn't get exactly.
Yeah.
Or he pointed back in that area somewhere. And I don't know whether he's even telling the truth.
Right.
There.
Yeah.
But he did tell me that it was on private ground, and he was going to try and buy the ground
right.
it was on. And what he said he wanted to do was make a kind of a museum right there in the cave.
Oh, yeah.
And display these things in there and have it everything under glass so people could come in and see this. But he never got that far. He had all kinds of problems, as you know.
Yep.
Trying to beat him up and shooting at him and burning his arms with blowtorches and killed his son and all kinds of things like that. Last time I saw him, which has been a year ago, he didn't even want to talk. He said he wished he'd never found these things and give him nothing but trouble.
Yeah, I bet it has.
I guess nothing's going to happen with that unless somebody stumbles onto it.
Well, did he? I have another story that says that after the entrance caved in, or after he caved it in, he made another entrance on the top. Did he describe that to you, or tell you about that?
Well,
or
I understood it was down below.
He went down below
in the bushes, in the brush down there, and made a very small tunnel back in there. He's a little man, you know.
Yeah.
He made it just so he could squeeze back in there. And I tried to get him to take me back there, and he says, well, you couldn't get through it. You're too big.
Okay.
And I said, well, if I give you my camera with a flash on it, will you go in and take pictures of all this for me? And he says, well, he had tried to do that, and none of the pictures came out. Now, whether he just didn't know what he was doing or what, I don't know.
Yeah. Did he ever show you drawings that he made of inside the cave?
Drawings. Yeah.
Of inside the cave that he drew?
Well, just a sketch of the floor plan of it. And then he gave me drawings of the two mummies that were in there.
Okay.
He drew those for me.
Okay.
And he did say that there was a cave on the west side of the mountain, too. And I think I know where it is, but it's in a really steep, rugged canyon. I've seen it from a distance, but looking across the canyon, but I've never been to it.
Yeah.
And he did say there was artifacts in there. He didn't say what else.
Did he say that he covered up his new entrance with rocks, or how did he hide it up? Or
he just put bushes over it.
Just put bushes over it.
Yeah.
He in his diary, he talks that one time that he covered it up and he lost it for like 2 months. Did he ever talk about that? Or
he never mentioned that to me. No.
Okay. In the cave, he described the mummies. Were they, as far as how they sat, were they set one on top of each other in separate sarcophaguses, or they
separate stone sarcophaguses?
And they laid end to end, or
no? One of them was facing north and south. The other was on the other wall facing east and west.
They was on opposite walls.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not opposite walls, but they were around the corner from each other.
Okay. Okay.
And
all right.
He just opened a few of the bundles of records in. He says most of them are still sitting there as far as he knows.
Oh, and then also I read that he gave Dr. Chessman 2 of these boxes, and Dr. Chessman wasn't going to open only under archaeological find, but he was first going to wait until he could get into the cave. But I know one of the boxes his wife had, or David Tomlinson had, and then his wife got. Do you know what happened to the other box?
Yeah, I've got it.
You've got it. Have you got the box?
I don't have the box. I just have the contents of it.
Oh, do you know what happened to the box?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Johnny Brewer, Millie had these when Paul died.
Right.
And she gave them back to me and told me to take them up and give them back to Johnny.
Ah.
And I did. I went back up there to give it to him, and he says, "Do you have any use for them?" And I says, "Sure." He says, "Well, you take them then." So I did.
Does these plates that you have, do they have the drawing that he drew and it has like the alligator or snake head or something like that? Does any of your plates have that on it?
No. No, just the drawing that he made of the mummies has it on.
Right.
But it's not on any of the plates. If you ever come down here, I'll show you pictures of all these things.
Yeah, I'd like to see pictures of those plates you have, because one of the plates that was in the other box does have one of them dragon heads or alligator or snake, whatever it is, and it has the exact markings on it that he's drawn on the male mummy.
Oh, yeah.
So
one of my plates has a scorpion on it, but that's as closest.
Ah. Okay.
Where do you live?
In Orem.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'd like to come down and see pictures of those plates.
I'd be glad to show you.
But you never ever did know what happened to the box, though, huh?
No, I don't know what happened to the box. Millie never gave me that.
Okay. All right. So, did he ever describe it as like being on a knoll, or just said it was in the mountains?
Just on a hillside.
Just on a hillside, and it was a big overhang or a small overhang? And
there was he said that...
It went into a little cave, and then he broke into a tunnel from there? Or?
Well, he broke into the staircase.
Uh-huh.
And the stairs went down. I think he said there were 7 stairs, if I'm not mistaken.
Uh-huh.
Went down into the chamber.
Did he say he ever tried to go down that hole at the end of the stairs?
No, he never did try that. He said it was a deep hole.
Okay. Now, did he tell you this story about George Keller, or is that just a story you heard?
He told me about that. When you come down, let me know so I can be here.
I will do that. Well, I appreciate you talking to me, Gale. I'm just trying to put 2 and 2 together and of this cave and what it looked like on the inside, and exactly.
The thing that interests me is he said that he didn't explore the back, straight back. He said he doesn't know what's back there.
Well, I've got his drawing of that cave, and you say you got it too there.
Well, he just drew out a little sketch with a pencil.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of a floor plan. But,
yep.
But he said that there was about 8 or 10 inches of dust all over the floor, so he says there could have been some things under the dust there, but
he didn't mention about excavating it inside of it or anything.
He never did. He just found these flat tablets that formed a map when he put them together, and he actually took me around to these places that he said
the 7 different spots.
Yeah, around the area, and they went all the way from Spring City to Wales and all over down that area. And he showed me where he says, now there's got to be records in this hill because the map says there is.
Oh.
But I don't know any exact spots.
Yeah. Okay. So
I've got a long telephone conversation with Johnny Brewer on tape here.
Yeah, you let me listen to that. Yeah. So
but he doesn't even want to talk to anybody anymore about it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's had a lot of heartache over it.
I don't blame him. It's been his wife has given him more trouble than anybody else.
Oh, yeah. Do you know about him being associated with Mark Kaufman? Okay.
I know he told me that some guys from Idaho came down and talked him into forging some plates for them. They were going to raise some money, and he did it. And he was excommunicated from the church, of course. But
he did tell you that himself?
Yeah, and he says that it probably saved him because when the government came after him on the Antiquities Act, he did.
It was forgeries, huh?
Those plates, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That probably saved his butt.
Yeah. Okay.
But he had a photographer from Manti come and photograph.
Lucian Bound.
Yeah, and Ross LeBaron went up to him and talked to him and given him copies of the pictures. And I don't know what Ross is doing with them. He showed me pictures that he's got. He's got 8 by 10 blow-ups of some of the things.
How many pictures he got? Just a bunch then, huh?
Yeah,
he got them all, or?
He's got pictures of all my plates.
Oh.
The plates that I've got.
And
a few others.
Okay. Because I thought that the note I have, Chessman says that he got some stone boxes that were not opened, and he was not going to open them until he got into the cave. And then that never happened. So if they weren't open, I wonder how he got photographs of them.
Well, I don't know if they ever were opened. Well, I don't know if she still got them or what had happened, but she gave this one set to me and told me to give them back to Johnny Brewer. I tried to, and he told me to keep them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I would like to see what do they look like, or in the shape of them? Are they kind of like
all different shapes? Most of them are lead, but there are a few. There's one little brass plate and several copper plates, and there's one bronze plate and several brass plates, but they're all small.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know if Paul had any tests or anything done on them?
No, but Robert Ghostwolf has been out here a couple of times trying to get me to give him one of the plates so he can have an analysis made on them. And I wouldn't do it because...
yeah, I remember you telling me about losing one to Wayne.
Yeah, Wayne took one and never gave
it back. That's terrible, because that's irreplaceable. That's priceless. Really?
Yeah.
Do you have photographs of it?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I got photographs of all of them. And there's a number of different languages, probably 4 or 5 different types of writing on them.
Okay.
But it wasn't, the only thing I blame Wayne for is letting me get out of his hands, because...
Do you know who he gave it to?
Oh, well, I've heard.
Did he give it to Hubbard or Paul Schafranca?
Harry Hubbard could be the one. But anyway...
What happened? They just wouldn't give it back, or...?
I think I've got a letter from Wayne, got his name on it. He gave it to that guy, and the guy wouldn't give it back to him.
Serious?
The guy's probably trying to raise money with it or something.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to get that
name. It's on the letter.
Yeah, I'd like to get that name.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, I think that's about all. See if I can't get that plate back for you, if I can get that name.
Johnny, maybe I told you, Johnny took me to a mountain west of Wales called Big Mountain. He called it West Point.
And that was the main cave he was looking for, the area of the main cave?
Well, yeah, he said that the map in his cave said that the largest, the most important repository of records was up on that mountain somewhere.
Right.
And he said he'd looked for it for a long time and couldn't find it, but it finally occurred to him he's not supposed to find it. That's not his business, but he was to be custodian of that one cave. But anyway... I do know of a location up there, and I do know that there's records there. The markings are on the rock, and I get good signals with my metal detector and everything.
Wow. Well, I think you give me a lot of information, and
you gonna write a book on?
No, I'm not writing a book on this at all.
Several books been written on it.
I know it. One of them, I'd gathered a lot of information, and I took it to a guy and shared it all with him, and he took it all word for word and made a book out of it.
Was that John Heinerman?
No. Yep.
He'll do that.
Yep. No, I'm just, I don't know why I've been interested in this for a lot of years, mainly because I think maybe it ties in with these symbols that are throughout the western United States. The ones that are like in Fillmore, Cedar City, and Manti, and that. I don't know why I've got an interest in it so bad, but I just do.
I don't think things happen by chance.
Yeah.
I think these are not coincidences. They're all part of a plan, but I don't have all the answers.
Yeah. Well, maybe one of these days we'll get all the answers.
All we need is enough to find the thing.
Yeah.
But I think there's probably records all over.
Well, I think so, too. I think there is, too. I really do. Yeah, I've just heard several different stories and versions of the cave and how he found it, and
that's what he told me.
And so,
Mrs. Keller told pretty close to the same story. There was a few differences in it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that was his story. That he did say that Keller showed it to him, and that wasn't somebody just making that up. So
I don't even know if George Keller's still alive.
I don't think he is. I also heard that Ross LeBaron, you mentioned him, that he got photographs of it, and I also heard that he'd looked for a lot of years, heavy, bothering Brewer about it and trying to find it.
Yeah.
And I know you've talked to him. Have you talked to him about the Brewer Cave and what he's found, and what his theories are? And
he showed me his pictures, but he got all his pictures from this
Lucian
photographer.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of treasure hunters out now. They show up every once in a while asking me questions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a lot of them around.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me, Gale.
All right.
I'm just curious about the inside of his cave and what it looked like and how he described it, and you've helped. I appreciate that.
Well, that's what he told me. So if it's wrong, then he told me wrong.
Yeah.
What he could do, just to throw people off.
Yeah. Well, he has told some people some different stories, but then he's told some people the same stories.
Yeah.
But I think your story is pretty correct. From what I've seen and what I've been studying and I think your story's pretty correct.
So you've met Dave Tomlinson then, huh?
Yeah.
Is he still at one block?
He give it back to Millie.
Oh.
So if I find out any more, you probably know more than anybody on this Brewer stuff. But if I find out more information, I'll let you know.
Okay, appreciate it.
I appreciate you talking.